Hi guys, my name's Barry and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at the top 10 most shocking twists in the Scream franchise. Before we begin, of course, this top 10 list is just my opinion. You may have a completely different opinion to me. Some of your shocking moments might not make it onto my top 10. Some of them might do, but please, if you're going to be commenting on my top 10, be nice and civil with everyone in the comment section. And at number 10 is when we find out that Sydney has a half brother in Scream 3. I think it was shocking, but shocking in a ridiculous way. I didn't like the idea, but when I look back on the movie after 24, 25 years or so, it's still a shocking moment because we weren't really expecting it. We didn't see and we didn't think that we were going to see more family members at this point. We didn't think we were going to see more family members of Sidney Prescott. And if we did, we didn't know that we're going to be involved, not just in the killings for that film, but to be responsible or have an influence on previous killers in Billy and Stu for the first film. So for me, it was a shocking moment. And at number 9 is the fact that we had 2 killers in Scream 1. You have to remember, this is the first movie in the franchise. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if there's 1 killer, 2 killers, 3, 4, 5. There's just no telling as to how many killers there are. The film plays out as if there is only 1 killer, and the film wants us to try and guess who the killer is, not killers, but just killer. So when we go through the movie, we're saying, that's the killer, that's the killer, not thinking they're the killers. Maybe there's more than one. That's just the way I see it anyway. So when the film is revealed that Bill is the killer, we're like, oh my God, we're shocked. But then we find out that Stu is also the killer. We're like, 2 killers? How did I not see that coming? I should have seen it coming, and we should have, but we didn't. But the fact that we see that there's 2 killers and they're both revealed within a minute of each other, I was like, oh wow. And then number 8 is Billy's mother is one of the killers in Scream 2. Now, it's another one where we should have seen it coming because somebody wants to get revenge for Billy. But the fact that we see Billy's mother throughout the movie, we don't know what she looks like. She's like a Pamela Voorhees type of character where we're introduced to her, but we don't know who she is. But when we're introduced to her as somebody else, and we're like, okay, she could be the killer. We don't know. We find out that yes, she is the killer, and we're like, we could have said that was going to be the killer because she was always hanging around. But then we find out that it's Billy's mother, and we're like, that's even more interesting. And then number 7 is the beginning of Scream 5, where Tara survives. Now, for me, I've always expected at this point that the person at the beginning of the movie, especially if they're a big name actor or actress, if they're at the beginning of a Scream film, they're going to die. And the way it looked as though it was happening in Scream 5, Jenna Ortega's character Tara was going to die at the beginning of the film. It was a brutal moment, probably the most brutal opening since the first film in the Scream franchise. So as she was getting stabbed in the hand and her leg was getting snapped and stuff, I'm like, this girl is a goner, and it's fantastic to watch because it was so brutal. But then we find out she survives, and I'm like, is she the first person to survive at the beginning of a Scream film? And then number 6 is the reveal of Jill being one of the killers in Scream 4. Now, it's similar to Roman being related to Sydney. We've got Jill now, who's also related to Sydney. And because we just had a killer who was related to Sydney in the previous film, I had no idea that Jill was going to be the killer in Scream 4 because she's related to Sydney. I didn't think they were going to do that 2 movies in a row. But also, with Jill being the killer, her mother got killed just previously before she was revealed. And I didn't think that Jill had it in her to either kill her mother or let Charlie be the one to kill her mother. Whoever killed her, it doesn't matter. Because Jill's mother got killed, Jill wasn't that fussed, and I'm like, she's an absolute psychopath. And then number 5 is the killer being revealed at the beginning of Scream 6. If only they saw it through, of course, because he was killed at the beginning of the movie. That was part of the beginning of Scream 6, but I think it was something that a lot of people were thinking of. Could you imagine that us, as the audience, knew who the killer was throughout the entire movie, but the characters didn't? We would see the movie in a completely different light, and I think it would still be enjoyable if only they'd seen it through. But I thought it was shocking at the time because when Jason pulled the mask off, we're like, holy shit, we know who the killer is. And then obviously when he was killed, that was squashed. And then number 4 is Billy being the killer in Scream 1. Obviously he's the killer with Stu, but the fact that Billy being revealed as one of the killers was shocking enough for me because throughout the entire film, we are blaming Billy for being the killer. We're saying he's a killer, he's a killer. And the characters were also saying he's the killer. Then it was revealed he was not the killer. Then he was the killer. Then he's not the killer. And we're like, what is happening here? And when he faked his death, we're all like, okay, well, we're all wrong. Billy wasn't a killer. And then when he fell down the stairs when he was still alive and saying it was pig's blood, we're like, oh shit, Billy's the killer. And then number 3 is when Randy died in Scream 2. Randy, at this point, was everyone's favourite character. He was everyone's, well, I'm speaking for everyone here. He was everyone's favourite character in Scream 1. And then when he was in Scream 2, for the time that he had, he was also, in my opinion, the best character in Scream 2. So the fact that they killed him off, not just in Scream 2, but midway through the movie, that was a bold move by Wes Craven because we weren't expecting it. Everyone expected Randy to survive, whether he's going to turn out to be the killer or not. We expected him to survive and we also wanted him to survive, but he didn't. And that was shocking. And then number 2 is Dewey dying in Scream 5. Similar to Randy, after Randy died in the Scream franchise, Dewey quickly became my favourite character. And I'm sure for a lot of you, Dewey became your next favourite character behind Randy. And because Dewey was in all the films up until Scream 5, Randy died in Scream 2 and he was our favourite. But with Dewey being in Scream 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and for him to die so many years after Scream, it was kind of heartbreaking, to be honest. When I first seen that happen, I'm like, my heart's breaking a little here because I don't know who he is in real life, of course, but I grew up with the Dewey character from 1996 up until 2022 when he died. His character lived within us all in the Scream franchise, so it was a shocking moment, and for me, more shocking than when Randy died. And then number 1 is the death of Casey Becker in Scream. Now, similar to seeing Billy being the killer and having 2 killers in Scream, we didn't know this was going to happen. Casey Becker dying at the beginning of the movie just wasn't written in the stars. Drew Barrymore was one of the biggest, if not the biggest name in Scream at the time. So we'd never seen this happen before. The big name being killed at the beginning of the movie. She was the poster girl for Scream as well. She was in the trailers for Scream. We just expected her to be the main star. When you look at the trailers and the posters, Neve Campbell and Sidney Prescott, they weren't really focused on in the press material. So we didn't even know, or I didn't know, that Sidney was going to be the main character. I thought Casey Becker was going to be the main character. So when she was killed off quickly at the beginning of the film, I'm like, if she's getting killed at the beginning, nobody's safe. Of course, if you're going to watch this film for the first time after you've seen any other Scream movie, it's not going to be a surprise to you. But if you're watching this movie for the first time, knowing nothing about the franchise, you will be shocked. So that's my top 10 shocking twists in the Scream franchise, guys. Obviously, there's more Scream movies that are going to come out, so this list could change in the future. But what are your top 10 shocking twists in the movie? If you don't want to tell me 10, give me 1 or 2 in the comment section and we can discuss it. And as always, guys, thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you soon.
Meeting adjourned.
I'll be right back.
What are you waiting for, huh?
Coming to get you, Barbara.
Ever played Skin the Cat?
Someone's in the back!